You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's a great day to be an Arizona Coyotes fan, as we have not just one, but two different pieces of news to report to you guys. On today's episode, I'm Robyn and Carl alongside Carl Pavlik. Arizona takes a 2-0 win over the New York Islanders. We're going to talk about that game. Plus, the city of Tempe has made an approval to send the Coyotes project proposal to a referendum for a special election in May. We're going to talk about that as well in just a moment. But first, I want to thank them for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. Today's episode also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is brought to you by, BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. So let's get into this. We're going to start talking about the game, the win over the New York Islanders. 3 straight wins for the Arizona Coyotes on the road. Carl, did any of us see this happening?
No, we did not. We could lie to you, listeners, and say that there was a lost episode because we didn't have one this morning where we completely accurately predicted this game. But we're not going to insult your intelligence. No one saw this coming. Even throughout the entire game, I was like, this isn't happening. The Coyotes are obviously going to cough this one up late. And it's going to go from like a 1-0 lead to like a 3-1 loss. But that didn't happen. They stayed tight and they won their third straight.
Winning their third straight game makes it really interesting. Arizona now, taking yet another win. And we can talk about standings all we want. We can joke about it. But technically, in the standings, they are leapfrogged some teams to move up in the, quote, playoff picture. And they're technically in a wild card spot. I don't know how to break that down, because remember, this is a rebuilding team. They shouldn't be where they are right now. But it's all fun and games when we discuss something like that.
Yeah, it's an 82-game season, and weird things are gonna happen. It's kind of like if you flipped a quarter for like 100 times, you're gonna get a stretch where you get like 5 heads in a row. It doesn't mean that it's going to, make you a better quarter flipper. The Coyotes aren't a better team. They're just, on a hot streak. Things are going right for them. Soon things are going to go wrong for them. And, that is going to be tough to watch. So you might as well just enjoy the good times when you can.
Enjoy the good times as you can, indeed. As, a lot of different things are, surprising for Arizona and going good in their way. Let's take a look at some of the examples here. Karel Vejmelka has recorded his first shutout of the season. He looked good tonight. He looked good in the last game, as in his last game as well, and he's just been looking good out there. He's had a rocky start, a really rocky start, but he's kind of finally, getting his groove back, getting the typical Karel Vejmelka that we saw middle of last season.
Yeah. Although surprisingly, it wasn't a shutout with 40 goals against. The Coyotes did a great job at limiting the Islanders to 24 shots on goal. The Islanders just missed the net so many times, but the Melka had to make some key saves. He had to be completely engaged, just fully locked in. There was plenty of moments where if he had done something different with his body, there would have been a goal, but he didn't. He was completely in control, and it was great to see.
It is absolutely great to see. It makes things, again. We talk about this team in the situation that they're in. And we go back to last year, Carl. You and I have like essentially hammered down the notion that we're taking as many silver linings as possible. Here is a silver lining. You take a look at Karel Malka and the way he's kind of going and these kind of couple games that he's had. It's like, okay, like, this is good. But you also got to ask, is it sustainable? We have yet to see that because he's had ups and downs. But, we take each thing, each bit as small as we can, each small victory, and, just take it.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely like when I was watching the game, that became my mentality in the third period when the Coyotes were like up 1-0. There was like less than 10 minutes left. And like, say, Travis Boyd would do like a really good play to protect the puck as he got in deep and, set it up for a shot on goal. Lawson Krause doing a lot of good work. The Coyotes are doing a lot of the small things right now. And that's really what you need because you need a team that's, willing to put in the work, willing to do things the right way. The roster is going to change. Like it's part of being a rebuilding team. But if the Coyotes can instill a culture where you do the right thing, not only are they going to be rewarded now, but they're going to continue to have success.
Absolutely. We're talking the Arizona Coyotes win over the New York Islanders. 2-0 is the final score. We're going to talk about the game a little bit more in just a little bit, get to some of the other, stats and cool things to take away from on this game in just a moment. But first, I'm going to turn to Carl for a quick word.
So I just have a message from our friends at BetOnline. And that's betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysts. It is where you can get all of the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports and hockey, they've got it covered at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. It is the fastest and easiest way to get all of your betting information. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So let's continue this episode of Locked On Coyotes as Arizona once again taking the 2-0 win over the New York Islanders. Let's take a look at some of the other highlights, Carl. The goal scorer, right? Travis Boyd. He's getting himself that goal, a power play goal again. First, I do want to talk about the power play in a little bit, but Travis Boyd with the goal. Don't you just love seeing someone like Travis Boyd get the get the goal right there?
Yeah, his second of the season. Great to see the power play doing well. Travis Boyd is definitely a big piece of that. His spot is a little bit less secure now that there's not the Nick Schmaltz in there because I feel like part of his job was like really gelling well with him and Keller, but he's still doing the right things. Like I said, he had a great move in the third period beyond the goal, just to kind of keep the team in there.
Absolutely, and his goal was a power play goal, so I do want to talk about that. Arizona, Carl, has 13 now power play goals this season, in line with 13 games played.
Yep.
A power play goal technically per game.
Yes.
I know there was a couple games in which they did not get any power play goals, but they had others where they had multiple. So a power play goal per game. We talked about this on a previous episode, but isn't it interesting to take a look at the fact that how bad Coyotes power play was last year and how good it is now?
It was funny because they cut to John McClain on the bench with the Islanders, which is where he's at now. But yes, it's great to see the Coyotes power play clicking. I am never sure why like certain power plays excel some years and don't. And certain penalty kills excel some years and don't. Like even if there's like not major changes in like coaching staff or rosters, like which I'd say is pretty much the case. Like, well, coaching, but not roster. Most of the power play players are the same. I don't know. I don't know if just other teams aren't wise to it, or if the Coyotes are legit just have an awesome system on the power play.
I'm not sure if he's making this, if it's this coach that's making the difference or not. But I do recall we had a conversation in the offseason and a little bit earlier this season too on the kind of impact we might have expected assistant coach John Madden would make. He kind of was part of the power play of other teams and special teams and other teams. So it's very likely that he's part of that. And it's very likely that he's making that impact and he's making that positive impact in that really big change.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think of is just like the players are more comfortable together. Like the major people we're seeing on the power play, Richie, Keller, Boyd now. I think Mosier's got quite a few points. They were all playing together last year, but that was, kind of new for them. Now they just kind of maybe gel a bit more, they practice a bit more. Maybe they could just kind of like have better chemistry. But it does seem like coaching is a significant difference. And, you love to see it because we are now seeing the power play steal games for the Coyotes.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you think that we should take from in this Coyotes win? Because there's a decent amount you can take away from. I want to know what else that maybe something I'm missing, something that I'm not touching on. I talked about power play, talked about Corelli, Melka, and stuff like that. But what else have you noticed from the Coyotes this game?
So one thing that I do want to point out, kind of briefly mentioned, but needs to be named, Clayton Keller had 2 primary assists on the night. He now has 11 assists on the season, along with 4 goals. That is 15 points in 13 games. Did you think that you would be seeing Clayton Keller as a point-a-game player this early in the year?
This
late in the year, because point-a-game player in your first 2 games, that's one thing. 13 games in, that's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, I don't think so. But also, I think we should also consider the fact that, like, we knew Clayton Keller was going to be good, but we also knew his talent would have only been limited by how the overall talent of the Coyotes are, because we knew they weren't going to be winning games. Turns out the fact that they are winning games. They've won 6 through 13 games, which is again honestly astonishing. But if you consider that, in hindsight, it's like, okay, like if we knew the Coyotes were to be at this point in the standings, then I'd be like, okay, if there's somebody who's going to be behind, a lot of these points and a lot of the way it's going to be Clayton Keller.
Sure. I finally understood where you're going with that, where you're like, if we knew the Coyotes were winning, we would retroactively just assume it was Clayton Keller, and we would be right. And that is absolutely the case. Yes. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Clayton Keller, he's not scoring as many goals, but he is definitely making an impact on this team. And I do think that it is, less of a noticeable impact this year. So I just want to keep calling it out because I'm worried that we are going to not focus on it as much. Because when he was getting like 25 goals, looked like he was going to have 30 like on the season. That was great. That's what we were talking about. But he's had what? 1, 2, 3. This is now his 4th multi-point game. He had a 3 assist game earlier. Like, he's doing good things.
He is doing good things. He's making, he's making this team as exciting as we can make it. And obviously the team is actually pretty exciting right now in these last couple of games. But there's a reason to look at Clayton Keller as a leader of this team. If you don't want to use the word captain and anytime soon, that's fine. But you can still use the word leader.
Yep. And he is the type of leader that I personally really like. The leader who, hey, the team's struggling, they're down. I'm going to go out there and get a goal. I'm going to go out there and either score one or I'm going to facilitate one. I don't necessarily think that the leader who's like, I'm going to go out there and get a big hit or start a fight is as good as a player who's like, I'm just going to put this offense on my back.
Yeah, he leads by his own skill, which is honestly amazing. I love to see that. And also, of course, he leads with his overall presence, right? Like he makes it exciting to be out there. Like he just you just see the way he plays, you see the way he acts, you see the way he is. He makes a difference. I believe he really does.
Absolutely. Definitely, like early on, I would say MVP for the Coyotes.
Absolutely. Any other final thoughts you want to give about this game before we move on and talk about one more thing?
Just real quick, watching the game broadcast, I think it was brought up that this was one of the Coyotes' better starts. It's not. If you take 2 penalties, including one in the first 5 minutes, I'm sorry, it's not a good start. It's an okay start at best. Like that is just instant like marks against you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, a good start is one in which you come out fast, don't take any penalties, and maybe even get a goal. That part is the goal part is optional, but as long as you have a positive presence on the ice in the first 10 minutes of the game, that's a good start.
Yeah. A penalty 3 minutes in is not a good start.
No, it is not a good start. So that statement is incorrect, but they did have just, the rest of the game's like, okay, yeah, they put things together enough to get the win.
Absolutely.
Once again, the final score, Arizona Coyotes defeat the New York Islanders 2-0 to improve to 6-1, 13 points on the season. None of us thought Arizona would be at this point. But that's not enough for the game talk. In just a moment, I do want to talk about something else, as the city of Tempe has made a vote while the game was going on I'll get to that actually in just a moment. I'll let you know exactly what it is. Before we get into that, though, I do want to thank everyone for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen today. For your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter most, the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available on this app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Now let's move on to discuss that part, as the Arizona Coyotes are also had another major win. Or not, I wouldn't say major, but another win somewhat in this on Thursday, as there was a vote from the city of Tempe. There was a city council meeting, a special city council meeting, of whether or not the city of Tempe would refer the project, or at least hold a date to refer the project for the TED, the Tempe Entertainment District, to a public referendum in a May 2023 special election. And Carl, the city of Tempe, unanimously voted in favor of holding that date, which is a good step. It's, obviously not approval of the project itself, but it's a good step to say, hey, we know that this might be a possibility that it goes to the referendum. So we're going to have a reserved date, May 2023, for the special election. And that's when the public may be able to vote on it. And I say may because there's still a possibility that it doesn't go to the voters.
Yeah, politics are fun, as I'm sure everyone is enjoying these this week. It's great. We were all kind of expecting it, and I don't think there's any harm in actually holding that date. I also don't think there's any problem with the referendum. I think that the Coyotes absolutely should have planned for it. I think it's a great way to get, the public buy-in in a way where you couldn't necessarily before. And I don't think there's any risk of it. I think this deal is very much designed to get public support.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that we seem to be moving in that direction, that it will actually be a full-on move to the referendum, because look at it this way: the city of Tempe seems to be in favor of like already in that idea, unanimously approving the date, and we'll see what they decide later this month of the actual decision with the actual decisions that they're going to make. But um, Javier Gutierrez, the president and CEO of the Arizona Coyotes, was at the city council meeting and kind of made a point to say, you know what, we are in favor of this moving to a public vote because we want to include, and even the city of Tempe kind of talked about this too. They want to promote inclusivity and transparency in this process. We want to be able to allow the city of Tempe public, the city of Tempe voters, to have as much of a say and as much of an opinion in the matter of having a major project done on their land.
Yeah. And it didn't have to go that way. He could have theoretically raised a stink about it and said look, this is something that we need to get done now, so we have it in our plan, so it works. But he didn't. It does seem like the Coyotes are doing this exactly the right way. They are making sure that they have enough time built in to make sure that nothing could go wrong. And I am sure that, you know, they could probably get the arena done before some of the entertainment district. So they could rearrange things as they need to if it really is cutting into their schedule. But I don't see anyone having any issues with this. I don't see Gary Bettman coming out and saying anything. I don't see anyone from the Coyotes saying anything. No one seems to be complaining.
No one seems to be complaining in general. I think because we know where we talked about this, we kind of know where the Tempe voters stand right now. There was a public poll. Obviously, you can take polling with a grain of salt because
Yes.
polling can absolutely be wrong. But but we still use it as a kind of chart to kind of get us to understand where things somewhat stand. There's a 60-40 in favor right now, right? People, a lot of the Tempe voters seem to be like, yeah, you know what, this could be definitely beneficial for Tempe. We want to be able to get this approved. And again, look, it's public fund. It's no public funding for the most part here, right? It is a privately funded venue, privately funded project.
Yeah.
Very little risk to them, and it's in an area where it's not going to cause too much of an issue.
Yeah. I've told people in our Slack channel where the big thing I always had when it came to being a Tempe resident, because I was one for I think around 7 years, was traffic. And this isn't going to cause a problem. Just the spot it's not a major traffic spot. There's some issues, but I don't think anyone's going to complain about it too much.
Now there will be on game days, but that's expected.
Yeah. I more meant construction traffic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I'm
I know what you mean, but I'm just joking around.
Yeah.
But yes, you're absolutely right.
Even still, like I experienced with the first game at the Mullet, it's going to be close enough to the light rail so you could get public transportation, and hopefully we see more of a shift to that in the next couple of years, because I think that's going to be a great way to go to games. So
even if they don't expand, even if if they don't do much with the light rail there, I'm sure they can figure out a way to maybe expand streetcar access, right? Because the Tempe streetcar is also a quote expansion of the the metro rail, and they can say, hey, we'll expand the streetcar to kind of go, let's say, not all the way to the arena, but all the way to the Tempe Center for the Arts, and we're gonna put it over there, and you can walk the rest of the way, which is what, a 5-minute walk, if that.
Yeah. Or they could just have a shuttle bus service at the stop just north of the planned site, and just have people shuttle over. But also, let's be real, this is an entertainment district. You're gonna want to have transportation planned for there, beyond just Coyotes games. You're gonna want to make it very easy for people to get to the bars and the restaurants and shopping and their luxury homes and all of that fun stuff. So there's gonna be something. I love the public transportation in Tempe. Get an orbit bus up there.
Absolutely. And I think that's another thing. You got to consider all that. The Tempe voters are going to, they're going to get a lot, and they're going to be able to get the full understanding of what this proposal is and what every detail of it, because those are probably decisions that are going to be made later on, and what exactly, how much detail, and how much is going to be available as a vote, because maybe even like the project itself gets approved, but like, hey, certain elements are going to go to the public referendum. That's also an option. You're going to talk about stuff like that, and there's going to be a lot to it. And I'm pretty sure, again, like I said, that there doesn't seem to be very much downside at all.
Yeah, I think the Coyotes are in a good position with this one. They just gotta not screw it up.
They gotta not screw it up. They started off good because, again, how Javier Gutierrez approached it in welcoming the public referendum. I mean, like, yes, absolutely, we welcome the public vote. We want to include them. We want to be transparent with them, because we want to make sure that let's put it this way: you don't want to alienate them, right? Because if they don't like it, then that's gonna create even more issues, right? So like, you want to be able to be welcoming and be a good face in the city that you're gonna build a massive project in.
Absolutely.
Because again, let's look at this. Let's look at it this. What's it, a $2.1 billion project? That's gonna have a lot. You talked about everything, not just the arena, but the hotels, and the shops, and again, it's not in the arena. It's not just gonna have Coyotes. It's probably also gonna have it's concerts and a lot of other major events, because it is it's gonna be a place people want to go to.
Yeah, like 5 years from now, when we're young becomes a touring act, the modern day Warped Tour, it's gonna play at the Tempe Entertainment District. Like that's gonna be kind of like some of the things you're gonna be able to see there. It'll be like Westgate, but better.
But a lot better than Westgate, because you're on a better side of the valley.
Yeah. Yep. It'll be like Tempe Marketplace, only slightly west.
Exactly. There's just things going right in that direction. Any other thoughts that you want to give on this vote, as once again the city of Tempe votes unanimously to hold that date?
Not really. It seems like it was a more procedural thing, but an important step. I'm glad to hear Gutierrez was involved and is speaking the right things.
Absolutely. There's going to be a couple more. There's going to be at least, I believe, 3 more meetings as the city of Tempe discusses this proposal this month. I believe the 15th is when the Development Review Commission will meet to discuss elements of the project. And on the 22nd and the 29th will be public meetings to discuss the project itself and approve potentially certain elements, even the whole project altogether, because that's still an option as well. We're going to talk about those meetings on future episodes of the Locked On Coyotes podcast, so you will definitely want to stay locked in. We're going to get to it as much as we are able to, and even if possible, get the boots on the ground. We're going to be there at those meetings if at all possible. But that's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, to like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube. Thanks again to those who tuned into the live part of this show. We really appreciate your support. And also, don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robyn_Leano. Carl Pavlock, edit at Carl Pavlock FFH. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back, or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.